Hey guys, it's YesGorPally here, and here's what I'll be creating in this video. It's essentially a little GIF of Pikachu flying up and staying there for a little bit, and this is all made in Photoshop, so by the end of this video you'll know how to make a GIF from scratch and how to export a GIF, either one you import from After Effects through a PNG sequence or the one you create in Photoshop. So to start, we are going to create a document. I'm just going to do 200 by 200 because it'll be easier on my computer as I'm still recording. And I'm going to hit create. Now I want to bring Pikachu on board, so I have him on my downloads here. I'm just going to drag him in like this. Perfect. Hit the OK. And now, since we have Pikachu in here, the first thing I want to do is bring the timeline up so I can alter this for the GIF. And this is just through window and timeline. Once I have this, I'm just going to hit create video timeline, and it'll bring up this little video timeline, but I don't really want this. I want frame by frame, which can be selected in this little button down here. Convert to frame animation, perfect. And since we want this little Pikachu to fly up and stay here for a little bit, we're going to start with him off the screen. So we're just going to move him down like that, and I'm going to create a new frame. And as you can see on the timeline here, it says nothing's here for 5 seconds. I'm going to create a new frame, and on the second frame, make sure you have the second frame selected. I'm going to bring Pikachu back up. Let's get him centered here. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, now you can see on this timeline here that we have nothing, and then we have Pikachu for 5 seconds. So we want this to kind of be spread out a little bit. It doesn't really show that he's flying in. So what you can do is select both of these layers, or since this is on the same layer right over here, we don't need to select them, but just to build a habit, I'm going to select both of them here and then hit this little button, which is the tween. And you can tween with the selection, or you can do all layers and whatnot. And then the frames to add is the amount of frames in between your first frame and your second frame. It'll use these extra frames to transition essentially. So for this one, I'm just going to add 15 frames. And there we go. We can see this Pikachu kind of coming up here. He doesn't come up till about this frame. So I'm actually just going to delete these ones by selecting Shift, the first one here, or the third one, I guess, and then selecting this one, and then just hitting delete. Delete the frames, yeah. And now we kind of see him coming up here, and each frame he comes up a little bit more until he's fully on. And the next issue I can see here is that each of these frames is going on for 5 seconds, which is an incredibly long amount of time for Pikachu just to come up and just sit there. So what we want to do is select all of them and then go to no delay. And there we go. As you can see, we can hit play and he kind of just flies like that. Now the next issue I can see is that Pikachu, once he gets up there, the GIF just replays. You don't really see what happens when he gets up there, sorry. So he should stay up there for about 5 seconds. So we can easily do that by just selecting the last frame and hitting maybe 2 or 5 seconds. I'm probably just gonna hit 2 actually. So let's see, comes up and he stays for a bit. Great. And on the example I showed, it's actually transparent, so it can be integrated into whatever you posted on a lot better. So it doesn't have this white background here necessarily. And to do this, we can just select all of the layers by selecting the first one, holding Shift, and then going to the last, and then just hitting the visibility option on this background. And you can see that reflected in all of the timeline here. Now let's say you have this position changing of the Pikachu and you're not really satisfied with that. You want him to come in like he's coming in from 0 opacity as well. So what I would do here is just select the keyframes in between again. Since these are going to be a lot harder to change, I'm just going to delete them. Once I've deleted them, I'm going to select the first frame and the last frame again, and actually on the last or the first frame here, I'm going to select the opacity and put it to 0, and then for this one I'm going to put it at 100. There we go. And I'm going to select them both, hit tween again, hit the 15 frames, and now he kind of comes in from a lower opacity as well as the position keyframe. And you can also do like a rotation if you wanted, but this is all I really need for this animation, so I think it's good like this. And you can see 0 seconds, and then the last one's 2 seconds. And it's a little harder to see on this checkerboard background when he's like a lower opacity like this, but when he's posted on like Imgur or like Twitter or something, you'll see that it's a solid background and it's a lot more clear what's happening. So now that you've learned how to create a GIF in Photoshop, let's move over to exporting a GIF. If you have a PNG sequence that you've exported from a video editing software like After Effects or Sony Vegas, you can go up to File, Open. I actually do not have an image sequence on my computer right now, but essentially what you do is go to the first image in your PNG sequence and you'd hit image sequence. It might not be a PNG, it might be a JPEG of course, but you can hit image sequence and it'll automatically select the rest for you, and you can just hit open. And then once you hit open, it'll ask you the frame rate and you can just import what you did for your video editing software. But now, since you've done that, you should be at this point that we're at from creating this from scratch in Photoshop. Now to export the GIF, what you can do is go to File, Export, and then Save for Web. And up here, you might be on JPEG or PNG, but you want to make sure you're on GIF this time. And you can obviously select any of the presets here. The 64 is the amount of colors it'll use, so we can select 128 and it'll use a lot more colors, and it kind of just ups the quality overall. And the options I want to make sure that I have, you can kind of just play around with the rest of them, but the ones I need are transparency on, otherwise it'll just be a white background, and that's kind of what I don't want. And the next one is the looping options, which I want to be on forever. which is a really nice thing about GIFs is that they can loop on and on and on. So for this one, it'll come in from the bottom, it'll stay there for 2 seconds, then it'll reset, and it'll come in from the bottom, stay there for 2 seconds, and reset. Or if you chose once, it'll obviously just come in once and then just stay there. So once you've selected all of your options, you can just hit save, and then we can choose where to save it. I'm going to save it in here. I'm just going to put Pikachu YouTube.gif. Now, as you can see, I've imported the newer one into Imgur here, and what it does is it changes the opacity this time, which we didn't do in this one. We just changed the position. So this one we started with 0 opacity on the object and we went to 100, which is why it has that little white at the beginning. Honestly, I kind of like that a little bit better, honestly. And that's all there is to creating and exporting GIFs in Photoshop. I hope you learned something new. If you did, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe with notifications on. I hope you guys all have a great day, and peace out.